You are standing over the ball, shoulders tight, grip like a vice. You swing hard and the ball sprays right again. And somewhere on a quiet course outside Kobe, an 80-year-old man in a straw hat swings so slow it looks lazy and sends it 200 yards down the middle. Here is what I learned, and I did not believe it at first. The Japanese golfers who play the best golf of their lives in their 70s are not stronger than you. They are not more flexible. They simply swing on a rhythm the rest of the world forgot, a rhythm that was written down more than 100 years ago on a mountain by men who treated a golf swing the way their grandfathers treated a sword. By the end of this, I am going to hand you a single breathing trick recorded near Mount Rokko in 1903. One you can try this weekend in your own backyard with nothing but a broom. And I promise you, once you feel it, you will never yank the club back the same way again. I have to be honest with you. For 30 years, I played golf angry. I bought the drivers. I bought the lessons at $40 a bucket. I bought the magazine with the 12 tips and the video course with the 20 more. And I still stood on that first tee with my heart pounding, hoping I would not embarrass myself in front of the group behind me. I remember the exact moment things cracked open for me. I was on a trip near Nishinomiya, standing at the edge of a modest little course, watching an old man practice alone at dusk. He had a canvas bag with maybe 7 clubs in it. Half of them looked older than me. And he was hitting these soft, effortless shots, one after another, and the sound off the face was different. Not a crack, a thump, almost soft. And every ball landed in the same small patch of grass, like he was setting them down by hand. I walked over. My Japanese was terrible. His English was worse. But he did something I have never forgotten. He put down his club. He tapped his own chest twice, slow, and he made a sound with his mouth, just a long, slow breath out. Then he pointed at my chest, and he shook his head, and he laughed, kind, not cruel. He was telling me the truth in the only language we shared. You are holding your breath. You are rushing. You are fighting the club. I did not understand it then. I do now. And what I found when I went looking is that this was never one old man's quirk. It was a whole way of swinging, quietly kept alive in Japan for more than a century, while the rest of us were sold speed, power, and 100 moving parts we could never remember on the course. Let me take you back to where it started, because the date matters. In the year 1903, an Englishman named Arthur Hesketh Groom built the very first golf course in Japan on the slopes of Mount Rokko, above the city of Kobe. He was a tea merchant. He loved the mountain air, and when he laid out those first 4 holes, he did something without meaning to. He handed the game of golf to a culture that already had a deep, refined, centuries-old understanding of one thing above all others: the controlled swing of a long object using the whole body, not the arms. Think about what Japan already had by 1903. Kendo, Kenjutsu, the way of the sword. Kyudo, the way of the bow. Naginata, the long blade. For hundreds of years, Japanese masters had studied exactly how a human being generates enormous speed at the end of a shaft while staying perfectly balanced and perfectly calm. They had already solved the problem that every golfer on earth still struggles with. How do you swing hard without swinging fast with your hands? So when golf arrived, the early Japanese players did not learn it the way an American did. They did not learn it as a sport of muscle. They absorbed it into a framework they already trusted. They treated the club like a training weapon. And the very first thing they carried over was not grip, not stance, not power. It was rhythm. They called the idea ma. There is no clean English word for it. The closest I can give you is the meaningful space between things, the pause, the timing, the breath between the backswing and the strike. Here is what I want you to sit with. In the West, we obsess over positions. Where is the club at the top? Where are the wrists? Where are the hips? The old Japanese approach almost ignored positions. It obsessed over timing, over the ratio of the slow part to the fast part. And that difference, that one difference, is why an 80-year-old man with 7 old clubs can outdrive a furious 50-year-old with $1,000 of titanium. Because here is the number that stopped me cold when I found it. Sports scientists who have studied elite swings, including researchers using high-speed motion capture, keep landing on the same ratio. The best, most repeatable swings in the world take roughly 3 units of time to go back and 1 unit of time to come down, 3 to 1. The backswing is 3 times longer than the downswing, not because the golfer is being careful, because that ratio lets the body load and unload in the correct order from the ground up. And when you measure the average weekend golfer, their ratio is a mess. Some rush the backswing so badly it is nearly 1 to 1. They snatch the club up and throw it down with the same panic speed. No wonder the club never catches up to the body. No wonder the face is open. They were never swinging slow. They were only ever swinging scared. The old man on that mountain course was not doing anything mystical. He had simply internalized the 3 to 1. His backswing looked lazy because it was 3 times longer than his strike. And his strike looked effortless because everything arrived in order at the same instant at the bottom. So I tried it. And this is the part where I have to admit how wrong I was for 30 years. I went to the range and I did one thing only. I stopped thinking about my hands, my hips, my head, all of it. I counted. In my head, going back, I counted 1, 2, 3, slow, and coming down, one word, down. Just 3 beats up, 1 beat through. That was it. That was the whole change. The first 10 balls felt strange, almost too slow, like I was going to lose all my power. And then the 11th ball came off the face with that thump. Not a crack, a thump. The exact sound I heard at dusk in Nishinomiya. And it flew straighter and longer than the balls I had been trying to crush. I stood there, honestly, a little angry. 30 years, $40 a bucket, and the answer was counting to 3. But rhythm alone is not the whole secret. And if I stopped here, I would be doing you the same disservice the magazines did to me. Because you can have perfect rhythm and still throw the club with your arms if your body does not know how to lead. Which brings me to the second thing the Japanese kept, and it comes straight off the edge of a sword. There is a concept in Japanese sword work called koshi. It means the hips, but more than that, it means the center, the waist, the origin of all real power in the human body. In kenjutsu, a student who swings the sword with the arms is corrected immediately, sometimes for years, until the movement begins in the hips and the arms become passengers. The sword does not cut because the shoulders are strong. It cuts because the koshi turns and the blade follows. Now hold that thought against your golf swing. In the 1990s and 2000s, sports scientists gave this old idea a modern name. They called it the X factor. It is the separation between your hip line and your shoulder line at the top of the backswing. When your hips have already begun to turn back toward the ball while your shoulders are still coiled away from it, you create a stretch across your core, like winding a spring. Studies of professional golfers found that the longest, most consistent hitters were not the biggest men. They were the men with the greatest separation between hips and shoulders, and, just as important, the ones who unwound in the correct order. Hips first, then torso, then arms, then club. Research out of Japanese sports science programs including work at universities with deep biomechanics labs, kept confirming the same sequence. The energy travels up the body like a wave, from the ground, through the legs, into the hips, up the trunk, out the arms, and finally snaps into the club head at the very last instant. It is called the kinematic sequence, and it is exactly, precisely, what a sword master would have described 300 years ago as the koshi leading the blade. Here is why this matters for you and me, the ordinary players. When you start your downswing with your shoulders and arms, which is what every frightened, rushing golfer does, you break the wave. You fire the top of the body first, the hips get left behind, and all that stored energy leaks out early. The club runs out of speed before it reaches the ball. You feel it as coming over the top. You see it as a slice, and you blame your equipment. But the old approach fixes it without a single swing thought about your arms. Because if you simply let the lower body start the downswing gently from the ground, the correct order happens by itself. The Japanese never taught arms. They taught the center and let the rest obey. I want to give you one image that changed my whole feel for this, and it is an old one. Imagine you are standing in a bucket of water, holding a wet towel by one corner, and you want to snap the far end of that towel forward. You do not do it by throwing your hand. You do it by turning your body, and the towel lags behind and then whips. That lag, that delay where the end trails the handle, the Japanese call it tame, the storing, the patience, the refusal to release too early. Tame is the single hardest thing for an anxious golfer to feel, because every instinct screams at you to hit at the ball with your hands from the very top, and every instinct is wrong. The player who holds the lag, who lets the club trail the body like that wet towel, is the player who finds speed he did not know he had. So now we have two of the buried pieces, the 3-to-1 rhythm, and the body leading, the arms trailing, koshi and tame. And already I can hear the doubt creeping in, because I had the very same doubt myself. You are thinking, that is fine for a Japanese man on a Japanese course who grew up around this. That is fine for someone flexible, someone young, someone with time. But I am 60-something. My back is stiff. My range is a mat in a parking lot or a net in my garage, and I do not have a sword master to correct me for 10 years. This will not work for me in my life, in my body. I built this next part for you, the one who thinks this only works over there, because I am that person too. And I found out something that turned my doubt completely upside down. This method does not need a young body. It was designed from the start for exactly the opposite. It was built for people using the whole body precisely because their arms and hands were not strong enough to do the job alone. The slower, softer, center-driven swing is not the advanced version for the gifted. It is the accessible version for the rest of us. That is the whole point. And you do not need a course or a coach or new clubs to start feeling it this week. You need a broom. If what I'm describing is already shifting something for you, I've gone much deeper into all of this in my books, Kaizen Daily, Deep Ma, and the full system, where I lay out the full practice framework, including the exact drills and breath sequences in a way you can work through at your own pace. You'll find the links in the description below. Now, back to what that ratio actually looks like when it breaks down and why it matters more than anything else you've been taught. Here's exactly what I did in my own garage and what I want you to try. Take an ordinary household broom, the long kind, and hold it like a golf club, the straw end down. Now, the bristles create air resistance. This is the trick. When you swing that broom, you can hear the swish, and you can feel exactly where in your swing you are applying speed. Most people, when they first try it, hear the loudest swish at the top of the downswing, way too early, near their own head. That sound is your power leaking out before the ball. That is the over-the-top move made audible. Now slow down and do it the old way. Count it. 1, 2, 3, going back, slow and smooth. Then let your hips start the turn back toward the target before your arms do anything at all. Let the broom trail, let it lag, and try to make the loudest swish happen down low out in front of you, where the ball would be. When you hear that swish move from up high to down low in front of you, you have just felt Tame and the kinematic sequence in the space of one afternoon with a cleaning tool that cost you nothing. Do it 20 times a day for a week, morning and evening. No ball, no pressure. Just the broom and the swish and the counting. I am telling you, this single free drill did more for my swing than any paid lesson I ever took, because it teaches your body the feel instead of cramming your head with positions. And feel is the only thing that survives when you are standing over a real shot with your heart pounding. Then there is the towel drill, and this one is even older in spirit. Take a hand towel and tuck it under both armpits, holding it against your chest with your upper arms. Now make slow swings, half swings, without letting the towel drop. The towel forces your arms and your body to move together, connected, as one unit. It kills the flailing arm swing instantly. It teaches the connection that the sword schools spent years drilling. And when the towel starts to fall, that is the exact moment your arms have disconnected from your center and taken over, free, in your living room this week. So the doubt that this is only for Japan, only for the young, only for the flexible, I need you to let that go, because the truth is the reverse. This was always the method for ordinary bodies. The muscle and speed approach, the one that wrecks your back and empties your wallet, that is the modern invention. And now we have to talk about why the simple way got buried in the first place. Because somebody profited enormously from you never learning any of this. Think about it honestly. If the real secret to a better golf swing is 3 free things, a rhythm you count in your head, a body sequence you feel with a broom, and a connection you drill with a bath towel, then who exactly makes money teaching you that? Nobody. And that is the problem. There is an entire industry built on the opposite promise. The promise that your swing is broken in some new and complicated way, and that the fix is something you must buy. Every year, a new driver, engineered to add a few yards for $400, $500, $600. Every season, a new shaft, a new ball, a new gadget that clips to your wrist and beeps. Lessons that break your swing into so many pieces you leave more confused than you arrived, and needing to book another lesson to reassemble yourself. The global golf equipment business moves billions of dollars a year, and not $1 of it is made by telling you that the answer is a broom in your garage and a number you count to 3. I am not saying every teacher is a crook. Many are wonderful, and a good coach who understands rhythm and sequence is worth their weight in gold. What I am saying is that the loudest, best-funded voices in golf have every reason in the world to keep you focused on parts you can purchase and complications you cannot solve alone. Simplicity does not sell. 150 years of accumulated Japanese wisdom that boils the swing down to breath and rhythm and center, that wisdom is very bad for business. And here is the part that genuinely made me angry once I saw it. The Japanese approach was never hidden in Japan. It was hidden from us. Aizawa Aoki, one of the greatest players Japan ever produced, won all over the world in the 1970s and 80s, with a swing and a putting stroke that Western commentators called strange, unorthodox, even wrong. His putter toe stuck up in the air. His tempo was his own, and he beat the best players in the world. Ayako Okamoto, with that smooth, unhurried motion, became one of the top players in the world in the 1980s. Jumbo Ozaki dominated Japanese golf for decades. These players were not copying the Western textbook. They were expressing something older, and it worked. And instead of studying it, the golf world mostly shrugged and called it unusual. We were told quietly, again and again, that the powerful, athletic, modern swing was the only real way, and that everything else was a curiosity. And we believed it because the people telling us had drivers to sell. Meanwhile, in thousands of quiet clubs across Japan, ordinary players in their 60s and 70s and 80s kept swinging slow, kept counting the rhythm, kept leading with the center, and kept playing beautiful golf long after their Western counterparts had given up with bad backs and empty wallets. That is the cost of not knowing. Not just the money, though the money is real, and it is enormous. It is the years. It is the decades of frustration. It is the good rounds you never had, the confidence you never felt, the version of this game you could have loved instead of fought. I lost 30 years to it. I do not want you to lose one more season. Which brings me, finally, to the thing I promised you at the very start. The single trick, recorded near Mount Rokko, that the old man tried to teach me with 2 taps on his chest and 1 long, slow breath. Because rhythm and sequence and connection are the body of this method, but breath is its soul, and breath is the piece almost nobody in the West will ever tell you. To understand it, I have to take you back before golf ever reached Japan, to the way of the bow, Kyudo, Japanese archery. In Kyudo, there is a formal, written sequence of movements, refined over centuries, and at the very heart of it is the control of the breath. The archer does not loose the arrow whenever he feels like it. The release, they call it hanare, is governed entirely by the breath. The draw happens on a long, controlled inhale and hold, and the release comes on the exhale. Never the other way. The arrow leaves the string as the body softens and empties, not as it tenses and grips. Tension is the enemy of the straight arrow, and the exhale is what dissolves the tension at the exact instant of release. When golf climbed that mountain in 1903 and landed in the hands of people raised on Kyudo and Kendo, this principle came with it, quietly, in the way the early Japanese players carried themselves over the ball. They did not hold their breath and lunge, they breathed. And the accounts and teachings that grew out of those early mountain courses treated the breath as part of the swing, not as an afterthought. Here is the secret, and it is so simple you will not believe it can matter this much. You inhale slowly as you take the club back. You reach the top on a full, easy breath. And then, as you start down, you begin to exhale a slow, controlled breath out, so that at the moment of impact, the very instant the club meets the ball, you are exhaling and your body is soft, not clenched. Every anxious golfer on earth does the exact opposite without knowing it. They inhale and hold their breath at the top, and they clench that held breath all the way through impact, tightening every muscle in their chest, arms, and hands at the worst possible moment. A held breath is a locked body. A locked body cannot swing fast. It can only swing hard, and hard and fast are not the same thing. That thump sound I kept hearing, that soft, powerful sound off the old man's club face, That is the sound of a body that is exhaling and loose at impact. The crack and the spray of the frustrated golfer is the sound of a body holding its breath and fighting itself. Try this, alone, this weekend. Take that broom, or a real club if you have one, out to the yard. Make your slow swing 3 counts back. And as you take the club back, breathe in through your nose, slow, filling up. Then, as you start down, let it out, a steady exhale through slightly parted lips, so the breath is still flowing out as the imaginary ball would be struck. Do not hold, do not grip. Just breathe out and let the club fall through. The first time I did this properly, in my own backyard at dusk, something in my shoulders let go that I did not even know had been clenched for 30 years. The swing felt like it belonged to me for the first time. Slow going back, empty and soft coming through, and the club head, released on the breath, arrived at the bottom faster than when I was trying to murder the ball. That is the whole thing. That is the buried treasure. 3 counts back and 1 down for the rhythm the scientists measured at 3-1. The center leading and the arms trailing, koshi and tame. The wet towel snap that the sword masters drilled for centuries and the biomechanics labs later proved. And the breath from the way of the bow, the long inhale back, the slow exhale through impact, so your body is soft at the one moment softness makes all the difference. None of it costs $1. All of it is more than 100 years old on those Kobe mountain slopes, and centuries older than that in the dojos and archery halls it came from. It was never lost in Japan. It was only kept from the rest of us, buried under the noise of everything we were told we had to buy. You just got it back. And now you know what the old man was trying to tell me with 2 taps on his chest and 1 long breath out. You are holding your breath. Stop fighting the club. Let it go. I think you already suspected something like this was true. I think you have felt for a long time that the game was being made harder and more expensive on purpose, that the simple answer was being kept just out of reach, behind one more purchase, one more lesson, one more gadget. You were right. You are the kind of person who trusts their own eyes over a sales pitch, and that instinct just handed you back something real. Something that was quietly taken from ordinary players like us a long time ago. So here is what I want to know, and I am asking you directly. Please take a second and tell me. When you try the broom drill and you listen for the swish, where do you hear it? Up high, near your head, or down low out in front of you where it belongs? Leave a comment and tell me exactly where your swish is loudest. I read them, and I will tell you what it means for your swing. And if you feel the way I feel, that there is a whole world of simple, honest, forgotten knowledge like this out there, quietly kept alive by ordinary people while we were sold the complicated version, then come with me. This is not about a channel. It is about a group of us digging up what was buried and putting it back in the hands of the people it was meant for. Because the next thing I found in an old Japanese record about how their longest-lived craftsmen protected their hands and wrists into their 90s is going to change how you hold not just a golf club, but everything you pick up for the rest of your life. And I cannot wait to show you. Before you go, one thing. This video gave you the overview, but inside the Japanese way circle, I walk you through the full Mount Rokko breathing method, picking up right where we stopped. If something puzzles you, ask me directly, and I answer you myself. No robots. You'd be joining thousands of curious folks just like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel anytime, one click. Come join me.